Hey everyone, Kevin here with Victory 4x4. In this video we're going to be installing a Dash Accessory Mount panel in our Nissan Frontier. Our Dash Accessory Mount is going to install right here in the center dash accessory tray location up top. So first thing, you're going to have to remove the kind of rubber textured pad that goes down in the bottom of there. And then you can grab a Phillips screwdriver. You're gonna have two screws right here at the back edge, kind of toward the middle, that can be removed. You'll want to hang on to these as we will use these as well as some of our provided hardware to install our mount later on. With those removed, you can now pull the center plastic cover section out of here. You're going to want some sort of pry tool. I grabbed specifically a plastic pry tool so that we're not damaging any of the plastic here on the dash as we're getting this removed. And then it's basically held in place with 3 clips, one on each side and one out here in the front center. So you can just start here in the back center, get underneath it, and kind of use one hand to hold it up as you work your way around and pop each of those clips free. And then you can simply toss this off to the side. This will not be reused. With that stuff out of the way, you can find the provided M6 clip nut in your bolt pack, which is going to be installed here in this front center factory pre-existing slot. So you want to put the flatter side of this facing up, and then it's just a matter of kind of centering it up on that slot and pushing it into place until it snaps. You can adjust this side to side as needed, but generally speaking, you're going to want to move this right to the center of that slot. And then you can grab the lower mounting bracket. You want the single center hole toward the front of the vehicle, leaving the two, no, words are bad. And then you can grab the lower mounting bracket. The single center hole will go toward the front of the vehicle, and you'll want these tabs to step up. This is the surface where the accessory panel is going to bolt in place. So we'll take this and drop it down to begin lining up our holes. Then from there, you'll want to find the M6 black button head bolt in your bolt pack and thread that into the clip nut. Careful not to get these confused with the 1/4 button head bolts that are in there as well to hold the panel in place in these locations. And then here at the rear of the panel in those two holes, you'll just reuse those factory coarse thread Phillips screws. Once all your hardware is started, you'll obviously tighten the Phillips head screws with a Phillips screwdriver. And then here at the front, you'll need a 4mm hex driver or Allen wrench. With everything tight on the mount, you can now grab your accessory panel along with the provided USB extension cable. You'll take this and simply pass it through the rectangular cutout here in the center of the panel, and then snap this end into place. This is a good time, if you're worried about it, to pay attention to this and determine which way you want it oriented just based on the plugs you intend to use, and then clip that in. Now with that snapped in place, I flipped the panel around. Here you can obviously see the extension cable coming out the side, and grabbed our Ultra Black RTV gasket maker. We're just going to take a little bit of this and kind of run a bead along two sides here. This is just to help secure this into place. It's kind of more of a long-term thing as this sees repeated use, and it may loosen up in the panel. This will help prevent that and hold it in place. Now you can use your discretion on this step as far as your skill set and what you're comfortable with. Feel free to do this out on a bench and let it dry before coming back in here, just to prevent getting any of this RTV on any of the interior surfaces. And then while you have that drying a little bit, we can move over and remove the glove box, because that's going to give us access for our wire routing path. Now to get this glove box removed, you're going to start by removing 2 Phillips head screws down here in the recessed openings. Then we can open up the glove box, and there's going to be 3 more here along the top edge. And then it'll be helpful to just pop this lower trim panel kind of out and in just a little bit, and grab a hold of this outside door seal and just free it up, exposing this edge. Once you've done that, you can reach in behind here as well as kind of grab the bottom and begin pulling out to pop the clips free that are holding this in place. You want to be careful not to pull this too far, because up top here you do have a wire harness going to the light in your glove compartment. That's just a small thumb tab that needs to be pressed in, and you can pull that connector free, allowing you to remove the entire glove compartment. So the plan here is to feed these down through the top center hole in our bracket up on the dash, and basically bring that out diagonally to an opening through here. It's obviously a little bit hard to see on the camera, but as soon as you stick your head up in here, you'll see daylight through this opening and give you a clear view of this routing path. It may be helpful to either tape these together or even just put a small zip tie on them for now, and then you're just gonna have to feed them down in and kind of find a place to set this up on the dash while you deal with the slack and the remainder of the routing. So once you have them properly routed, they should come out roughly right in that corner. And then just a couple things to point out as you're routing these through here behind the dash. Just make sure if you're feeling any resistance, or if you can tell that it's visibly, obviously rubbing on anything, you're gonna wanna do something about that. You don't want these rubbing on anything behind here that could damage them. So pay attention as you route these so that you get them in a nice safe location. You can then pull all of your slack through and get your accessory panel at least loosely in place up here. Now, how you proceed from here is going to be really dependent on how you intend to use these plugs and how you want them to be powered. You have a couple different options here. Some people would like to plug into the factory USB port down here, potentially allowing you to use things like Apple CarPlay or any of your accessories there and be tied right into the vehicle. Now, in this one specifically, we do only have one port down here, so you may have to acquire a 2-to-1 adapter to go into that location if you plan to plug in both of our USBs using that method. Another alternative to that is going to be something like what I have here, which is just a 12 to 5 volt USB converter. So it's got a power and ground on one end that need to be tied into 12 volts, and then you have USB out on this end. This one's obviously just a single port, so you could do some combination of one routed here to the factory plug, one routed to something like this so you have power full time if that suits your needs, or you can also order these in a dual port setup to plug both into power full time. If you're going to use this method, you're likely going to have to pull power from out under the hood of the vehicle and then run it back in through a grommet in the firewall and come across behind the dash. That one's a little more involved, but then you can basically run these down into this far corner underneath, which kind of takes you under the center kind of air control console. You'll have the vent down here along with essentially your air diverter behind the dash that you're going underneath, allowing these to kind of rest on the carpet here. And then on the other side, you'll tie them into your power setup and get everything secured in place. And then if you are choosing to come out to this port here, you have a pretty easy access from this point, basically going straight down through a small opening here in the bottom of the dash. Again, pulling all your slack through, finding good places to secure these with zip ties along the way. And then, especially if you have our center console mollies in place, that gives you kind of a nice discreet thing to tuck these in behind as you work your way up to the USB port here. And then again, once you get these out to here, it's just a matter of plugging them in, ideally with an adapter if you're going to be running both to this location. So once you've determined which wiring setup is going to work best for you, and you've got your wires and everything routed, we can now reassemble the dash and the glove compartment here. That's just going to be the reverse order of how this got removed. So making sure we get our light plugged back in, snapping it into place, and reinstalling all the factory Phillips screws. So you want to make sure as you're getting this in that you get this lower corner behind that fixed trim panel that was still in the vehicle here before plugging this light in, and then snapping this whole assembly back into place. Then with that snapped securely in place, go ahead and pop this panel back over and press the door seal back in. And then we'll reinstall the Phillips head screws. And lastly, up top here, you can grab the remaining 1/4 20 button head bolts in your bolt pack and install them into the 4 non-threaded holes here, down into that lower mounting bracket. After you have all 4 of those started, grab a 5/32 hex and tighten this panel in place. With those 4 fasteners tight, this installation is complete. So if you guys have any questions at all about this install or anything else we offer here at Victory 4x4, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always give us a call at 269-459-8447 or send us an email at info@victory4x4.com.